now turn it over to Darrell Heights. Please welcome Darrell Heights to the stage.
There was a king over in the Far East. And this king, as he was over in the Far East, as his birthday came about, this particular king liked exotic birds. He liked exotic birds, and what he liked most about those birds were when they were in flight. And so for his birthday, they gave this king two exotic birds. And as they gave him these two exotic birds, and they opened the cage so that they could fly, the birds took off, and one bird landed on the branch of a tree. And that bird stayed on the branch of the tree, and the king was obviously getting upset because he wasn't able to see this bird in flight. And so the king looked behind him and he said, "Go and get the village veterinarian." So they went into the village and they got the local veterinarian, and he came up and he began to do this bird talk, to try to speak to this bird, to communicate to this bird so that this bird can begin to take flight. The bird did not take flight, so the king said, "Off with his head," immediately. Then, shortly thereafter, the king said, "Well, who else do we have in the village that can honor me accordingly?" So they decided to go off into the village, and they found a village magician. And the village magician came up, and when he came up, he walked up to this branch where this bird was at, and he was doing this hocus pocus, pocus hocus, bird fly, and the bird did not fly. So he said, "Off with his head." So the king felt a tugging on his robe. And this tugging he was feeling on his robe was that of someone that may be, for the sake thereof, someone that would be less inferior. He found this kid tugging on him and saying, "I can do it, I can do it." And so this kid is pulling on the king's robe, and the king is like, "Get back." And this kid is like, "I can do it, I can do it." So no one else stepping up, because obviously you've seen the king cut the last two people head off. So but this kid is telling him, "I can do it, I can do it." So all of a sudden, they heard this. This kid had equipped himself with a chainsaw. So he walked up to the branch of the tree and he cut the branch off, and the bird took flight. The bird took flight. Often enough in society today, we tend to not look at the person who is the less valued person in the room. You tend to make decisions because you've looked upon that person and you have said to yourself, "That person he don't look right. He don't have the same skill set. His resume doesn't read accordingly. The way he looked, he doesn't fit the mold of what we're looking for this particular setting. He isn't fully skilled. He doesn't have the skills requirements and all. He isn't the one." But often enough, what I began to learn in this process was this: put me in the game, coach. Put me in the game, coach. Often enough, what we have found in society and in the Tampa market, speaking of Milwaukee, I was about to say because I'm heading there, but in this Tampa market, what I began to realize is, coach, you're not putting us in the game. And so by you're not putting us in the game, you're losing the ROI, and you're losing out on a competitive game. See, because what I began to realize here recently is that we take people to the championship. We win championships. You know what? When we show up on the golf course, we become the best at the golf course. When I realized that when we show up in the movie theaters and on the big screen, we end up being box office hits. When we look at the statistics and album sales and music sales, you begin to realize that, guess what? Put me in the game, coach. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about black people. Often enough, society has looked upon us and have said this: "Well, you know, it's an ism attached to it in some shape, form, or fashion. There's a lack of knowledge, as the scripture said, there's a lack of knowledge, and our people will perish. And in all thy getting, get what? Get an understanding." So what I have begun to realize is, guess what? The knowledge hasn't showed up at our front door. And if the knowledge hasn't showed up at our front door, also the information of understanding it surely is somewhere miles and miles away. So what I decided to do was build a table, because no one was in my circle at the table. We were on the menu. So hence, we started the Hillsborough County Black Chamber of Commerce. The Hillsborough County Black Chamber of Commerce is designed specifically for black people in mind, but we take partners and collaborations with any and everyone. As my managing director says, she says, at the bottom is where you compete, but at the top of the mountaintop is where you collaborate. So we collaborate with anyone who's looking to collaborate with us, but I will be specifically, and I will say, I am looking for someone who understands, where can I find in my lantern in life someone who understands my woes and who understands my issues, who's able to partner up, lock arms and say, you know what, I want to ride or die with this guy. As famous Martin Luther King said, we can't do this work by ourselves. We need others to assist us. We'd be foolish to believe that we could do this by ourselves. So we need you, but I need you to be intentional about when you show up at the table. When you show up at the table, I need you to know that this is the meal that we have prepared. See, we're a soul food audience. So I don't need you to show up with a meal that doesn't meet what we're looking to. So I'm asking you to join hands with us, come on board, look at what we have to offer, look at what our members have to offer. And as they say, come eat with us, come sup with us, come take advantage of what we have going on at the Hillsborough County Black Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.